So you're thinking about relocating to the Treasure Valley here in Idaho, but it's a little scary, and both of us get it. We are both transplants in Idaho. And the reality is, you don't know what you don't know. So in this video, we're going to share everything you need to know about what you don't know about living in the Treasure Valley, Idaho. So let's get after it right now. My name's Rachel.
And I'm Jesse.
And on this channel, we do our very best to teach you everything there is about relocating to Idaho. So if you need us to be your eyes and your ears and teach you everything there is about working, playing, and living in Idaho, go ahead and tap the subscribe button and click this little bell. That way you never miss one of our videos on living in Idaho. Also, we're licensed realtors and local investors. As much as we enjoy sharing everything there is about living in Idaho, we love helping you relocate and make this place home even more. So if you have any questions or you're planning on moving to Idaho, don't hesitate. Give us a call, shoot us a text, or write us an email. With no further ado, our top things that you don't know about living here in Idaho. Okay, so I asked Jesse if he would join me in this video in sharing with all of you who are so hungry for information about living in Idaho to give his experience about what he learned what he was surprised to learn when he relocated to Idaho. Now, Jesse has 11 real estate teams around the country. He grew up in Oregon, has lived in Portland. He moved to Scottsdale, Arizona. Now he is here in Idaho, and he's got some family here as well. So he has a ton of knowledge about a lot of the different areas all throughout the country. And I asked him to make a list, thinking it was going to be 5, 6, maybe 7 points long. Guys, let me show you this. Can you see that? It is a very long list. So he's got a lot of opinions and a lot of things that he thinks are not so great about living in Idaho that we think are really important for you to take a listen to help you really decide if this is the best place for you to relocate to or not. And he's got a lot of things that he thinks are pretty wonderful about living here in Idaho. So with no further ado, let's get going on your mega list.
Yeah. So, like the one thing that I always say is the great things are great. I can deal with all the great things, but what are the negative things? Like, I need to know what the bad things are because, for example, if I'm allergic to bees and there's 10 million bees, I'm not going to walk into the middle of that bee field. So I need to make sure I'm not walking into a swarm of bees here. And I hope that we can give you some information to help make your decision a little bit better.
That was clever. Have you said that before?
No, never. But it just makes, I always know why, everyone always likes to know the negative stuff. So I know, here we go. I'm going to share with you what there are some of the things that I think are just absolutely crazy, make no sense, and just drive me wild. But something that is very interesting, I've heard people say this before, but I didn't really get it until I moved here, was the fly situation. I just still don't understand why. Maybe I've never seen a cow since I've lived here, but
you haven't?
No.
There's cows behind our church.
I haven't seen any, but maybe they were sleeping. Maybe I was sleeping. But there's tons of flies here. And if you have a doggy door like we do, the dogs go in and out and the flies get in. You open up the front door, the flies come in, and you can look inside of your blinds and you just open them up and you'll see they just fall out of the sky and die. And Rachel told me it's because the air's dry and that when they're inside, they dry up and they just basically die. So the fly situation is crazy.
They are huge. Also, someone in Kuna, Idaho, I heard that they refer to them as Kuna birds because they're so big there. There's still quite a bit of farmland, and so the flies are excessively large. Now, there is a season for it, and you will see the flies increase a little bit in the summertime, but end of summer, beginning of fall, it gets crazy. So My advice, if you have animals, pick up after them right away. Don't leave that sitting out in your yard. Put your trash out, make sure that your cans are clean. There's actually services here where they'll clean out your trash cans for you. And that really helps mitigate part of the fly situation. And Jesse bought a 2-pack of an electric fly swatter on Amazon that he puts quite good use to. We should throw some of that up in our B-roll, you climbing on counters and killing flies. But it's true, there's a lot of flies, so get used to it if you are going to move here.
And my pro tip about killing flies with your electric fly swatter is if you try to go at them quick, they're hard to get. So what I learned is if you just slowly hover the fly swatter over them, and then you can just like tap them and they'll just fly right into it. So if you try to go aggressive, they fly away. If you go slow and steady, bam.
Yeah, and it creates a firework. It sparks.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Kids like it. It's kind of fun. All right. What is your next thing that people need to know?
It's probably the one that absolutely drives me the most crazy is the roadways here. So the roadways, they're the driving and the developments. And what I mean by that is there are some roadways here. Like basically what I think they did is some guy named John, this is the way I picture it. Some guy named John went to some guy named Larry at the city and just said, hey, I want to build this development. And he's like, okay.
I say we just wing it.
We can't just wing it.
Wing it?
Wing it. We wing it.
And there was no plan in place because the way that they developed these parking lots with businesses in them makes absolutely zero sense. For example, there's a Black Rock Coffee around the corner and there's another restaurant next to it. So typically when you look at restaurants that would drive-throughs, they put them on the end of the buildings. Well, in this place, they put them on the end of the buildings, but not on the outsides. They put them right in the middle and both driveways go right into each other. So if Black Rock, they put a curb in front of the drive-through where you're exiting out. So if you're leaving the drive-through, you literally, bam, you run right into the curb and they put a stop sign. And I asked the lady, I said, how many people crashed into this? And she said, honestly, more than we can count. And she said, honestly, the biggest problem is that other driveway funnels right into ours. And that's where collisions happen. And so that's one. The other one is there's another development next to where we're at called Spurwing. Now, when you turn into the turning lane to turn into Spurwing, there's arrows that point you back out into traffic, not to turn into the development, which they should be. And you can tell where they tried to fix it, but it's just 2 arrows now go crisscrossing. That's another bizarre situation. Another one is down at the east end of town, which is more towards Garden City. There's a shopping complex. Well, when you turn on that complex, there's one lane that you enter into, and it gives you about 500 feet until you get over. Otherwise, it puts you onto a highway that doesn't exit back into the parking lot, which is really weird because it's a Home Depot. And you would think that there'd be an exit off of the highway into Home Depot because they make you cross traffic, turn down another highway and then cross traffic again to get into Home Depot, which makes absolutely zero sense in the world. And there's no streetlights here in most of the areas. And it's when this place erupts, like everyone thinks it's erupted, but right now it's nothing. When there really drives some traffic and some consolidation or some compression in this market, I'm telling you right now, the traffic seats, the lights make no sense. Nothing makes sense on the roadways here. And there's a lot of crashes. We actually have seen 2 rollovers in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because a lot of people that move here are used to their areas having legalized U-turns. Well, here they just started putting in some U-turn signs and everyone's confused. They don't know what it is. Well, if you're from out of state or from Arizona like me, U-turns are normal. So when you go to take a U-turn, everyone's not paying attention and there's crashes happening left and right. And the parking lots at which hold these like stores and restaurants and things like that, they make no sense. There's no like thoroughfares. It's like you'll be driving straight and then it'll just straight dead end. They have all these little exits and entrances that make no sense. And it is just literally the most bizarre thing you've ever seen in your life. It's something like I've never seen. There's no planning committee.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. You know what it makes me think of? My mom always references when they were growing up, they never wore helmets when they rode bikes. They didn't wear seatbelts in the car. They didn't even have them. Like just, that whole like latchkey generation where people were just kind of doing what they did and things weren't super regulated. Well, Idaho is the least regulated state in the nation. And there's a lot of really good things about being the least regulated. And there's some things that are kind of funny. And all jokes aside, like some of the planning here is kind of crazy. To add on to the road thing, the roads don't have reflectors in them. They use what they refer to as reflective paint, and the reflective paint is good when it's freshly painted, and then within 5 minutes it's not good anymore. And I know a lot of people move out here and it takes them a while to figure out why they can't see at night anymore when they're driving, and we start having conversations. I'm like, have you noticed that there's no reflectors on the street? And then, like Jesse mentioned, there's no street lights. So it's not your eyes. It is Idaho, country city.
Yeah.
Country
exactly.
city. It's bad if it's raining too. So if I hate driving, and I especially hate driving at night. So I do not drive here after dark, and especially not when it's raining. And it starts getting dark here in the fall, winter pretty early. So I pretty much start hibernating around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the winter.
Yep.
So,
cool. Well, let's move along. Otherwise, we're going to be here all day. We'll rapid fire through a couple here in a minute. But the third thing on my list was I was very shocked about the mass plan communities here. And the reason that surprises me is in Portland, there's only like 2 mass plan communities, Aranco Station and I can't even think of the second one. It's down south of Wilsonville. But anyways, and so when I moved to Arizona, there was mass plan communities everywhere, and that was a very common thing, and I freaking loved it. Well, my family is from Idaho. I have a lot of family here. When I was growing up as a kid, this area was nothing but concrete and dirt. There was nothing, and especially in Meridian. And Eagle was always like one of those places where they always said like the rich people lived, and it's very timberish and very green. But I would always go to Meridian because my uncle raced cars, and we'd go to the Meridian Raceway, and it was literally just like concrete jungle. Well, when I came back here and I came into Meridian, I was literally in shock. Like I was so blown away by how many mass plan communities there were. And these are beautiful mass plan communities. I'm talking about like, clubhouses, golf courses, pools, gyms, all sorts of crazy things that people really enjoy that can really lend to a community. And a lot of them did it right, but without, like I said before in the last one, there's a lot of traffic issues with that. So they built these mass plan communities right, but they tried to fix the roads and they tried to make it work. So right now you just basically have to work with what you got. But I do think that there are some very nice mass plan communities.
There is something to note about the mass plan communities. Some of them have schools in them, and the intention was to provide education to the people moving into the communities. A lot of those schools are full. So if you're planning on moving here and you're interested in a master plan community, you definitely want to reach out to us so we can help you kind of navigate what that will look like for you and your family. All right, what's up next?
Yep, moving into number 4 on my list was landscaping services and things like TaskRabbit and Thumbtack is very, very sad here. Coming from Arizona, down there, you could find somebody to put together 6 racks in your garage, it would be less than $100, and there'd be people begging to do it. Here, I hired the same service. The guy showed up, he charged me $650, and he complained the whole time, and he was extremely slow. Also, finding a landscaping company was probably the most bizarre situation. My mom always said that the landscaping here was different than the landscaping I was used to, and I didn't really believe it because you can go anywhere and get full service landscaping and it's a breeze. Well, when I came here, what I realized is that everyone here just likes to edge and mow the lawn. To do what they call full service, they only like to do a couple times a year, which is like trimming the hedges, pulling all the weeds, doing all the things. I think if somebody moved here and owned a landscaping company and provided a full service landscaping company, they would absolutely kill it. So if you're in the landscaping business, I'm telling you, come out here. I will freaking help you blow that thing up because I think that somebody needs to come out here and set the standard.
Yeah, it's true. And it's really easy to open a business here in Idaho. We need them so bad and we're so unregulated. if you're an entrepreneur, come on out.
Yeah. And this leads us into like number 5 is that it's a very slow pace out here, and it goes into everything. It goes into business hours of operation. You can be looking at a restaurant on Yelp and you're like, okay, this is a very busy restaurant, independent restaurant. And then you'll look up their hours and they'll just be randomly closed. And you're like, what's going on? Or it'll be like, oh, we're only open on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you're like, what about the other days of the week? And it's a very interesting situation. It reminds me of a lot of like how Europe operates, where they like take a 2-hour lunch break and they work to live. They don't live to work, And so I can appreciate that. But when you're trying to buy stuff and you're looking for things, you need stuff, right? So I guess Amazon is a primary resource here, and you kind of get used to it pretty quickly. I will say that. Moving into number 6 is there is endless credit unions. If you're from an area where there's a coffee shop or a Starbucks on every corner, there's 4 credit unions on every corner. She never realized it, but I had a friend tell me about it, and then I started noticing it, and there is endless credit unions here. So
it really is, and I hadn't realized it either.
Yep.
Now I see it everywhere.
Number 7 is there's very long days here. This is the third city in America with the longest hours of daylight. I didn't know that. Only behind a city in Alaska and a city in South Dakota. So the cities here, like right now, it's staying daylight, or actually in the middle of the summer, it's been daylight up until 10 o'clock at night. And I'm talking real daylight, not just barely light, real daylight, which is really cool. If you like those real long days, except the only problem that you have is if you have little kids and they're trying to go to bed, and it does mess up with your perception of time as well, because you'll think it's like, oh, it's 7 o'clock at night. And the next thing you know, you're looking, it's 9:30.
Yeah. Which in the colder months, the sun does set pretty early and it gets super dark. So the days are so short in the winter. And for me, I really struggle with that. I hate that.
Yeah. Moving into our next one, number 8 is, speaking of long days, it means the summertime, guess what? There's a lot of smoke in the air here. And you can talk more about the inversion, but right now there's bad fires out in the Cascades, and the smoke's blowing here. And actually the level is pretty elevated with how clear the air is. It's not very clear at all. And it's actually causing, it's actually casting a pretty big fog into the city and actually cools it down a little bit.
Yeah, so we're here in the Treasure Valley. So there's a tendency when there's wildfire season, whether the fires are in Idaho, Oregon, California, Washington, which I think most of those states have already burned themselves down. So it doesn't seem as bad as it has been the last few years. This year really has not been terrible. But the smoke settles up above the valley here and it doesn't go anywhere. We also have an inversion, and inversion season is when the heat gets trapped up above the clouds and the cold sits down below, and you don't see the sun. There's no wind. It is ice, bone chilling, uncomfortably cold, and it starts to smell bad because there's nothing moving the air around. If the inversion lasts long enough, it starts to smell like the beet factory here in Nampa, Idaho, which, depending on which camp you're in, 90% of the people don't enjoy the smell of the beet factory in Nampa. Or you could be like me, I'm one of the 10% who thinks it smells like roasted peanuts and it makes me crave peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So I don't mind the smell of the Nampa beet factory unless I'm on a diet or on a way to a meeting and I can't get a PB&J.
I don't think I've smelled it. So although we did see a person selling boiled peanuts the other day on the side of the road.
Which made me, from coming here from Atlanta, very happy. So.
Yep. Moving into number 9, and this kind of like went back to the business thing, but a lot of businesses here are actually closed on Sunday. And if you're coming here to buy real estate, one thing that I do not like is that a lot of real estate agents take advantage of church. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people here that don't want to put their house on the market on Sundays or no showings on Sundays. Well, a lot of agents take advantage of that and they'll just say that they don't work on Sundays, even though they're not religious, or they just play the whole game. So the thing that I thought was very bizarre was that not almost every, but there's a lot of businesses that are just closed on Sunday, which I totally get it. And if that's your thing, that's your thing. But when one of your only days off is Sunday, it kind of creates a problem, So
yeah, I think it's more of a nuisance for people who are looking to buy or sell than what people realize, because there's just a lot of agents who turn their phone off, won't answer it. And I respect taking time to invest into your family and your relationships, staying at home with your kids, but you got to be able to work when your clients are available. So,
yep. Yeah, most buyers are going to look at homes after hours and on the weekends when they're not working. And so when you take one of those days away, it creates a big problem, So that's why planning in advance and reaching out so that way we can schedule your trip is most important.
And we do work on Sundays. If we know you need us on Sunday, we go to church Saturday evening or to the early morning service. So,
yep. Moving right along here into number 10 is something that we both like is the restaurant scene here outside of downtown Boise is pretty lacking. There, believe it or not, when I first moved here, I asked everyone, what's the number one restaurant in the city? Every single person, hands down, said that the place to go was Amano's. Not sponsored. They don't sponsor this video. We don't even know. I don't know the owner. Do you know the owner?
I don't know the owner.
Exactly.
But I wish you didn't tell anyone that because it's so hard to get in there.
Well, just book a reservation. And we were actually talking to some people at the pool and they just went there and we never recommended it. So it's a very known place. And if you ever go out to Caldwell, it's got a really cool downtown area.
So neat.
I don't know if it's a place I'd ever want to live. It's a little bit far out there, but they definitely have a lot of cool things there. And they have a cowboy steakhouse.
They have a cowboy steakhouse with dancing, and it's a whole Indian Creek plaza. They do ice skating there in the winter, and they have water shooting out of the ground in the summer, and there's Dole Whip out there, and it's a pretty cool area.
There's actually a lot of roadside little slushy or Hawaiian ice shops here that sell Dole Whip too. So if you're from, say, Vegas, I see a lot of those. They're actually a lot here too. In Portland, non-existent. Speaking of Portland, this might be our most controversial topic. Number 11 is something I recognized here coming from Portland, moving to Arizona, and now being here is number 11 is the politics. And it's very, very interesting. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of pockets in downtown Boise that are very, we'll just say left. They're very liberal. And the new mayor, she ran on this whole platform.
And not Kennedy left. We're talking like.
Yeah, we're talking like woke left.
Yeah.
I'll just say it.
Obama
extreme.
But
I was kind of interested. It was very interesting to me because being out in, say, Meridian and Eagle and Nampa and those things, it's still very, it's what I would call neutral. I call it commonsensical. It's very common sense driven. But when you go down there, it's like they're trying to make up and, they're very, very loud about their beliefs and things like that. And I think it's ridiculous. I think, it's great to have a cause, but it's also like when you're running a business and an establishment, you don't need to push your agenda on the people coming into your establishment, keep that stuff at home, have your private forums, and that's what I feel like it's happened down there. It's gone through a hard shift, but the mayor, they came in, she ran on a platform different than what she actually is pushing now. And it's really created some issues. The one thing that I love that Rachel did is that on 4th of July, June is Pride Month. So in June, they had rainbow flags all over the city. And then they had no plans to do anything for the 4th of July. So Rachel coordinated a bunch of people to go downtown and put American flags up all around the city. And they took them all down except for the ones at the Capitol building. But it was all over the news. It was really cool. So here, when you drive around, you see American flags everywhere. That's something that I loved about Arizona. That's something that I loved about Texas. And people are very patriotic. There's something to be said about living in an area that you feel safe in, that you can leave your keys in your ignition, leave your front door unlocked, all the things without feeling like someone's going to break in and rob you. It is very, very safe here. And that's one thing that I'll say.
Well, and to piggyback on that, oh geez, I just totally lost my train of thought.
Politics, safety, the mayor, flags.
That's wild. It was important too.
It's so good. She lost her mind.
Oh, I mean, this isn't it, but this is just something to address, I suppose. So downtown, pretty far left. Outside of downtown, you're going to get more of a moderate vibe. And then when you go out to Middleton, Nampa, CUNA, you're going to get conservative to far right, people who are more involved in homeschooling, wanting to homestead. So if it's important to you that you live among people who are like-minded, you'll definitely want to reach out and we can help you kind of navigate that. And beware, there are some charter schools that are opening up out here. There's a lot of school choice out here, and there's a lot of support for people who want to homeschool. Some of the charter schools that are opening in these very conservative areas that are living under the umbrella of what you would be looking for if you were trying to avoid the public school system are doing things like gender neutral bathrooms or going on trips where the boys are allowed to go hang out with the girls as a girl and vice versa. And they're leaving that up to the parents of the child, not to the community at the school. And it's just a very interesting time. So that kind of thing I don't foresee lasting very long, but it is important to reach out so we can help you navigate that, because we know most of you moving here and watching these videos are refugees and you're leaving for a reason. So
yep. Moving into that was like me. Portland caught on fire, the riots were hitting, and I was like, I got to get out of there. When the mayor moved, I moved. That was my rule.
He lived 2 buildings down from the mayor and was having to deal with like the craziest stuff that didn't happen.
Yeah.
All just imaginary was happening somehow on his street. So
exactly. So the good news is, which leads to number 12, is that almost no matter where you live here, you are within 30 minutes pretty much of downtown. If you need to go downtown, which is where the airport is, it's not downtown, but it's on the edge of downtown. So if you're looking to go to a great restaurant, go to an event, we were just at the Balloon Festival this last weekend and it was right downtown. It took us 22 minutes to get there.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. The Balloon Festival. We were at the Balloon Festival and they played the national anthem to kick it off. And Jesse was just like, my mind's blown.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he hadn't had the opportunity to be around something like that in a while. So
yep.
They do the national anthem and say the Pledge of Allegiance here in most areas.
Yep, exactly. Moving into number 13 is the property tax situation. So when I moved here, I saw property taxes extremely low. Everyone told me it was a non-disclosure state. Your property taxes are like basically nothing. They basically played it out like they were going to pay me to live here.
I have to pause. Non-disclosure state. What that lingo means is in some states, when you buy a house, you say what you bought it for, and it's public information. It's how companies like Zillow are able to estimate the value of homes in the area. It's because they know what homes are selling for, so they can get a pretty good idea of what other homes are worth. Here in the state of Idaho, you do not have to disclose what you purchased your home for. It is not a law. So Zillow, and I'll say it right now, I'm a Zillow killer. I don't like Zillow for a lot of reasons, but if you go on Zillow and you're looking at home evaluations and what homes are worth here in the state of Idaho, they're absolutely not correct because we are a non-disclosure state. And unless someone wasn't educated by their realtor when they purchased a house, they are not disclosing what they bought their house for. Okay.
Yep. So this causes a couple problems. One, if it's a non-disclosure state, where does that valuation come from? It's up for them to decide, the city. And guess what they did this last year? They decided that somebody wasn't doing their job. So they were going to go in there and reevaluate everyone's home and come up with their own valuations. Well, guess what that did is it sent everything the other way. So when I bought the house that I bought, my valuation, my property taxes were shown at $2,500 a year. This was on a it was listed at $725 home. Well, the seller, I was under contract when they came out and did the reevaluation. So he calls me and says, hey, guess what? The property taxes are going to go up. I said, yeah, it was just that title and escrow. And they said they went from I think they were at 25 or 2,800, and it went all the way up into the $4,000 range. The title and escrow lady was telling me, my escrow officer, she was saying, yeah, the city made a big mistake. They were undervaluing everything, and now they've completely shifted the other way. She goes, my property taxes went up 4x. And so I got my letter from the bank, and guess what they based my property taxes on? It was based on the list price of the home, not at the closed price of the home. So it was my property taxes were valued at a $725,000 valuation. Even though I bought the house for $650,000, So now what I have to do is when you go to the closing table, it says, do you want to disclose the cost of your home that you're buying? So I asked the title officer, what are my options? She goes, you can either disclose and they'll base the taxes based on what it's worth, or they will do it themselves and it'll be over. So if it's over, you have to go down to the city and you have to take your closing documents and show that it was less. So now you're wasting a lot of time. Or the third option is just roll the dice and see what happens. So what I say is you have a 33% chance of it being lower. Your chances of it being at value or higher is way more probable. So you might as well just disclose the cost and pay the appropriate taxes. Otherwise, it's most likely going to cause you a big heartache. And that's exactly what happened to me. And guess what? I still haven't fought it. So I still need to go down there and take action. So when your taxes go from $2,500 to over $4,000 in one swoop, it's a little bit of a wake up call. And you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So,
well, which is why it's important to watch these videos consistently, because this is extremely different advice than I gave 4 or 5 videos even ago.
Because it's all just changed.
It's changing. The other thing is you do get to write off or file to have $125,000 of your home's value taken off, and then the taxes calculated on that. And it used to be 100,000, so that's gone up. So that's good news. So
yeah, yep. There's a lot of good benefits. And if say you're low income or someone that needs help, there is what they call the what's it called?
We're talking about the circuit breaker?
Circuit breaker law.
Yeah. Or if you're a senior, that applies to you as well. So that's going to be in part 2 of cost of living in Idaho. I'm going to go over all of that.
Perfect. Well, moving into number 14, the people here are very friendly and very helpful. I will say that if you're something shows up to your house and you need help carrying it in, any neighbor will help you bring it in. I was very shocked, like ordering things on Facebook Marketplace, how many people will deliver it to your house. I literally used to sell tons of stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and if anybody ever asked me to deliver it, I'd be like, hell no, it ain't happening. Here, you say, hey, will you deliver that for an extra $30? And everyone's helpful. Everyone's willing to do it. So there's a very, very community-focused pitch-in, everyone helps effort here. And obviously, I think as more people move here from out of state, that could transition, but the people that are from here, very helpful.
Yeah, my neighbor across the street was outside chatting. I realized I needed a pencil for my daughter. I asked if we could borrow a pencil. They gave us a pencil. Next day, woke up and there was a whole brand new pack of rainbow pencils at the doorstep. And I think Boise has always been coined Boise nice, which I have lived in Seattle. And if you look up the Seattle freeze, that's very real. So I was super not used to nice people. And then when I went to Atlanta, it was a lot of like Southern hospitality, which is kind of like overwhelmingly fake nice. Here in Idaho, that Boise nice trend with all the people moving here wanting to create community and wanting to create a better life for their families has really created this perfect blend of like, you have just amount of privacy, just the right amount of privacy, but you also have just the right amount of opportunity to build community and make friends. And you know that you can knock on essentially anyone's door, know them or not, and you're going to be greeted with a smile and help and really like a new genuine friend right out the bat. So it is pretty amazing.
Yep. And this kind of like leads us into number 15 is that generational Idahoans, is that what they're called? Idahoans are very, very different than, people that have relocated here. I just find them very, a lot of them talk about how everyone that's relocating here is driving them out and they're driving the price up. They complain a lot, very victim mentality. None of us 99% of us in America's ancestors are not from America. So that's the way I look at it anytime I've relocated. When I used to live in Oregon back in the 90s, everyone used to say, oh, the Californians are ruining everything, and when I hear that today here in Idaho, I just look at them and I say, look, your ancestors aren't from here. So what are you complaining about? And it's a lot of people are very, very prideful and they think they own this place. And it's just very interesting to me. So that's just one thing I've taken a note. and it's a very, very distinct group of people.
It's very distinct. And I'll also say that something that's been really interesting, I have a lot of people, I get a lot of phone calls, talk to a lot of people who haven't moved here yet. And one of the things that they're the most nervous about is making friends and starting over. And what I've seen at my daughter's school, for example, is anytime there's an opportunity to network or play or stay after school and play, she goes to a private school. So there's just tons and tons of opportunity to build community. 100% of the people who volunteer in the classes and come to those events.
Can I time you out real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Number 16 is community. So go ahead and take it away.
Oh, is this the next topic?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Well, then there you go. So if they are from somewhere not from Idaho, they volunteer, they show up for those events, they are looking to make friends. After the event, if you've exchanged phone numbers, you're invited over to their house, out for a play date. There is there's a very real effort on behalf of people who live here, whether it's been for 5 years, 10 years, or a week, to make friends and continue building community and be a great neighbor.
What? Did we just become best friends?
The people who are from Idaho, which I want to say in our area, the last statistic that I saw was that 30% of the people who lived kind of out throughout Star and Meridian and Eagle are actually from here. And I want to say they said from here equaled more than 20 years. They don't stay for those events. They don't volunteer in the class. They kind of don't stick around. You don't really even know who they are. Another thing that I thought was really interesting is I joined a global Bible study last week, was the first event. And I went to that event. Everyone went around introducing themselves, all new. It was the first one. It had just launched here in Idaho. And half of the room was newly relocated here from Seattle, Washington. So it used to be that you would always hear California, especially Northern California, Bay Area, San Jose, just different pockets. You would keep hearing the same people over and over again, moving from those areas. Now the tables are really starting to pull in a lot of people coming from Seattle. There's some more people coming in from Portland. So I thought that was kind of cool. Our whole street is all people. There's not a single person on the entire street that is not from California. But I grew up in California, lived in Seattle, lived in Atlanta, and I think it's really kind of cool to see all the different personalities coming in. Just don't bring the Seattle freeze with you, Seattleites. Don't bring the Seattle freeze. What were you going to say about community?
I don't even know what Seattle freeze means.
The Seattle freeze, and if you look it up on Urban Dictionary, it's basically like everyone's super nice to your face. They smile at you, they'll greet you, but chances of like ever being in their home invited over or being real friends with them, it will never happen. I actually started a book club in Seattle, and we had 234 members, and every single woman who joined that book club joined because they were Seattle transplants and were like, what's wrong with me? I haven't made a single friend, which is why I started the book club. I couldn't even believe I'm a friendly person. I've never had trouble making friends, and I'm such a girl's girl. I could not understand why I couldn't make myself a girlfriend there. And I eventually did with my book club.
Nice.
You don't have to take resorts like that out here. You have to like cut your friends list off, or else you just won't have time for all the people that you fall in love with.
Yep. Oh no, community, I just said it's very community driven here. There's a lot of things going on. But moving into number 17 is the real estate and the new construction. And this is something that we kind of touched on with the Sunday situation. But also the thing that I was really blown away about was that the new construction people here, the developers, were incentivizing home buyers to come back without their agents, which I thought was very, very interesting.
Wrong.
It's wrong. It basically is what they're trying to do is take the leverage out of the buyer's hand, and they're trying to put people into situations that are less fortunate to themselves because they're trying to limit their liability for the future. And so now we're part of so many Facebook groups where people are very, very angry and trying to sue these developers because in their contracts, when people are excited and there's low inventory, people are willing to give their last child away to get a house sometimes. And in these contracts, it would clearly state if they're negligent and they're knowingly negligent, they're not held liable to what they're doing. And so there's a lot of situations where the home is having a lot of issues. Every home settles after, in the first 12 to 24 months. Well, a lot of these developers are now saying, hey, like it's out of our hands. There's nothing we can do, all these things. And what we saw this in 2008, actually, is a lot of them will just shut down shop, close down, file bankruptcy. And now all their liabilities completely diminished. And they'll come back years later and open up a new company in another family member's name. And, a lot of these developers that are coming back are the developers that went out of business back in the day. And now they're back. They came with their shady tendencies, 12 months ago. And now they're begging for us to help them sell homes because inventory levels have risen. And they're paying, a ton of money because, their loans that they have on their homes now are occupied home loans versus development loans. So just so you know, I was just looking at the statistics for new construction actually. And I was telling this to Rachel a minute ago, is that new construction inventory has increased.
It was a different page. It was like 160%.
New construction, the median sales price is still up 20%. The market increase has increased substantially. It's up to 20 days on market average now, but the inventory has risen 160%. So there's 848 new construction homes on the market, which is great for home buyers. There's a lot more choices.
There is. And, I think it's really unfortunate that realtors have such a bad rap that developers and builders are able to take advantage of buyers by making them feel like they don't need a realtor. Us and all the realtors on our team that we work with have had pretty extensive training in the new construction, negotiating, contract arena because new construction is so prevalent out here. And if there's one point that I can get across in this entire video, don't walk into a community and work with the realtor that is representing the developer or the builder, and don't come out here, or the seller, and don't come out here without representation. You need to call us ahead of time and plan. There's a lot of little intricate details that you don't want to miss that could either cost you the ability to even buy a home to begin with within the timeline that you need, or be able to qualify for a loan. It's just really sad. Good realtors are great and they do help you. And we have worked with some really bad realtors on the other side of things. So I can see where it's easy to, where we have a bad rap, because anyone can go get their real estate license, but not anyone lasts in this.
Well, the thing is after working in the real estate industry and helping thousands of clients buy homes, like even as a buyer myself before getting into real estate, I thought if I went straight to the seller, they were going to give me a better deal. Mm-hmm. Well, the reality is that seller is just going to put that money in their pocket. They have a bottom line that they're going to sell the house at, and they already have the commissions in as a fixed cost. So they're going to just make more profit by not with you not using an agent, and then you're not represented in a legal standpoint. Obviously there's some clients that hire attorneys and do the whole thing, but usually the developers, when they bring attorneys back, they say, that's like using an agent. That's why I didn't want you to bring your agent back, Mm-hmm. So before, when the market was insane, a lot of times they weren't even paying agents, but now they're paying us more than ever, trying to help us sell their homes. So yeah, it just is whatever. There's a lot of good builders out there and there's a lot of crappy ones.
And it doesn't cost you anything to have representation. So if you call us on the phone and you want help relocating here, it is no charge to you. And what I mean by that is it doesn't cost you anything to reach out to us, call, make a plan, let us help you get set up with a lender, figure out what your timeline looks like, help you pick the best area and community, schools. We have so much information and so much experience. Like I said, Jesse himself has 11 teams around the country. You have like 400 agents that you coach. It's insane. So we've done a lot of real estate between the two of us. Give us a call. Yeah,
and if you're selling to come here, we probably have a team agent in your market, one of our partners that works directly with us to know exactly how to transition by selling your house and buying a house at the same time. You don't have to sell your house to buy a house. I mean, you do, but you don't have to like sell your house, move out, and then buy another house. You can do that at the exact same time. So you can smoothly transition from one house to the next without skipping a beat.
Yeah. And it can be tricky without good help.
Yep.
So, and we only work with good agents out of state. So,
yeah. And an amazing relocation company that will help you move.
oh, yes.
Yeah.
That is another big thing. And that's a whole nother video. I do have a video about moving, and go find that on the channel. But we have a great company that we work with, and we're their preferred realtors. And they can do moves in the continental United States. And we know after working with them for quite some time that all of your stuff is safe. They don't pull any crazy, weird show up at your door with all your things and say, you owe us, all of your puppies, or we're not going to leave your stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy stories.
Yep. So moving right along, we'll rapid fire a couple of these real quick. 18 is the biking rules. Where I come from, you're not allowed to ride your bike on the sidewalks. People here ride their bikes on the sidewalks. They think they have pedestrian right-of-ways. As long as they get off, where I'm from, as long as you're off your bike, you have the same rules as a pedestrian. Here, no one cares. They just ride. But you do have to watch out though, because which will lead me into number 19 actually, is the websites here. A lot of the websites aren't updated. But this, and the thing is when I was going on looking up trail maps for the Greenway and the Greenbelt, I realized that if you do have an electric bike, there's 3 different classifications of electric bikes, and the Greenbelts here have different rules based on your classification of your bike. So in certain areas, they only allow us certain miles per hour on the Greenbelts and all these things. There's just like a bunch of like very weird rules that don't make any sense. And it's literally like somebody just decided like, oh, I'm going to implement this rule, or, oh, some accident happened, so let's make a rule. That's really the way I feel. So there's a lot of websites out there that are just outdated.
Yeah. Let us know if you need a good website. There is a very large nonprofit out here who dedicates their time and energy, resources to updating information about the trail systems, all the laws and rules. I assume that a lot of you want to move to Idaho because you love getting out and getting after it outdoors year round. These websites will tell you, there's a bear on the trail, stay away, whatever it is. So that's pretty cool. But 90% of the information on the internet about Idaho is not up to date.
Yep, exactly. Another thing, moving into number 20, and we'd love to hear down in the comment box what your guys' thoughts are about Idaho. Maybe you're thinking about making a move. Like, what's your draw to come out here? But number 20 is the thing that I never saw, that I don't see about 99% of the time. Actually, 99.9. I've only seen it twice now. Is graffiti, and I don't see any homeless. So I come from a place, Portland, Oregon, where graffiti is insane, and homeless is insane. So I come here, I'm like, it's non-existent. But Rachel has lived here for a while, and she's like, oh, I'm seeing graffiti and I'm seeing homeless start to show up.
Yeah, anytime that I see graffiti, which has been a couple times, it's a full-blown conversation. My girlfriends talk about it. We're all talking about it. We're discussing it. It's like a topic because it just blows your mind that there's graffiti here. And it's so easy for me to forget that where I came from, there was so much graffiti, you wouldn't even notice. The other thing is, it used to be that there were no homeless. I mean, no homeless at all. I lived in downtown Boise the first couple years that I lived here. That was only 5-ish years ago. Never saw someone sleeping on the streets. Fast forward a few years later, my girlfriend and I were at a park downtown, and we saw someone sleeping in the park, and it blew us away. We'd never seen that. My girlfriend was born and raised Idaho, had never experienced that before. She was really freaked out. We had our kids. I was shocked, but not as freaked out because it's something that I've grown up with. While it is not even 1/99th of what it is in other cities, it is starting to slowly creep in here. And my personal opinion, the mayor that's in Boise right now is trash, and she is going to let trash happen there. And my heart is for the mental health community. Some of you know, I started out my career as a nurse in underserved medicine, and I think that it's really important to get these people the help that they need and get them off the street quickly, not let them live out on the street. It's just not safe for the people living on the street or the people in the communities. And if you're hearing this, Boise mayor, deal with it, take care of it before the problem explodes.
Exactly. Coming from a place like Portland, there's actually a documentary out there about the homeless situation in America. And when they interviewed all the mayors around the country, they asked them like, what's the biggest regret that you have? Or like, how could you have prevented this? And all of them said they basically ignored it until it became so bad that they couldn't control it anymore. And, you know, there's some cities that have done a better job than others. But I mean, heck, we all know if you live in Portland, Seattle, or Los Angeles, San Francisco, it's all basically that left coast. It's gotten really bad. Some of the most beautiful ocean beaches in the country are now riddled with homeless, and it's not that they don't want to be there. These people are choosing to be there in a lot of the circumstances. And obviously, there's always the people that are in less fortunate circumstances that don't want to be. But when you ask them if they want help and all the things, they're just like, no, I don't. This is what I like doing. So. We're going to move into the last few here. It's a couple that I think are very interesting. But the coffee scene here, if you love coffee, I literally went around and tasted coffee at every single coffee shop.
He did.
And there's a lot of just garbage coffee here. So, you know, Portland and Seattle are known for coffee. But when you come here, it's like all these people are like, oh, we're a roastery. We do this, we do that. And there's a lot of garbage coffee. However, I did find the best coffee. Even the Black Rock here is not the same. They don't get the coffee from the same place as they get it in Arizona. So in Arizona, the Black Rock gets the coffee from the roasteria down in Tempe. In Idaho and in Portland, in Oregon, the Black Rocks up here get it from a roastery in Oregon, which I think is interesting. So the best place to get coffee in the Treasure Valley is a place called Alchemist. They're not a sponsor of ours. We don't know the owners. They have amazing food. They have amazing coffee, and it's a pretty cool atmosphere. The best one to go to is over on State Street and what is that, Highway 50?
It's a really weird highway. If you get stuck on it, you're on it forever. So
it's the one I mentioned. It's the one I mentioned earlier.
By Home Depot and Winco, and it's super good. And I'm laughing, I'm chuckling because he really did, and he will drive 15 minutes in the morning to get his coffee and come back home because he's super picky. So take his coffee advice. In Seattle, I was super spoiled. Anywhere I went, had really good coffee. And then I moved to Atlanta, and I'll never forget my very first time going through a drive-thru to order coffee. I asked for soy milk. They hadn't heard of soy milk. When I got up to the window, I'm not kidding, the lady pulled down her little mic and was like, how do you make soy milk? What is soy milk? And I'm explaining to her, you know, it's a plant. And she's like, how do you milk a plant? So I feel like going from Atlanta to Boise, like I'm back in a good position with coffee. But this guy, he's like, no.
So what I did is I bought, I buy the coffee. I actually asked them how they made it because it gets, it's like anything else. It gets expensive, especially when you have to drive 15 minutes each way. Actually, this place is more. It's actually 20 minutes because there's two locations, but the one closer doesn't make it as good as the one that's a little bit further. And also the one that's a little bit further has a better food selection. So anyways, I asked them, how do you make your coffee? They showed me how to make it. We have an espresso maker. Now make it at home. So bada bing, bada boom. And it solves all the issues.
I want to tell them what you did with the pods.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
He also has, so he has an espresso machine and he has a Nespresso machine. And this guy, time is everything to him. Time is above all the highest value for him. I'm not exaggerating. He took the Nespresso pods, pulled off the little aluminum piece, dumped out all the ground, sat with a razor and made sure all the aluminum was off perfectly so he could put the Alchemist coffee in them, and got a little kit to reseal them up so he can use them in his Nespresso if he needs to hurry. That's how important it is to him to be able to have a good cup of coffee in the morning. He went to that length. So
because that's just what I did. I love Nespresso coffee, but I like their coffee. I saw this thing on Instagram of this lady refilling Nespresso pods, and I was like, I'm gonna try it. And then it made me feel like the cheapest human on earth. I used to work at Costco 20 years ago, and I used to think it was crazy when people waited an hour to get gas to save $2 an hour, and that's what it made me feel like. It made me feel like that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna save 10 cents a gallon, 20 gallons, I'm gonna save $2, but I waited an hour to save $2 whole. Trust me, it's not worth it yet, but the verdict's still out.
Yeah.
I actually haven't even brewed a cup of coffee with those pods yet.
Yeah. Next video, we'll update you on what it's like.
Yep. And moving into our last one, is Whole Foods. So if you're somebody that likes Whole Foods, you're going to be very, very sad to know that there's only one Whole Foods here.
This is one of your things on the list?
Yeah.
But we have Albertsons.
Okay. Let's just give you guys a clear picture, because there might not be Albertsons where you're at, but if wherever you're from, if there is an Albertsons, that is not what she's talking about. The Albertsons where you see is just the normal grocery store that's probably kind of dumpy. The Albertsons here, they do have those ones, but they have 2 of them here that are absolutely insane. They put Whole Foods to shame. But for the most part, if you love Whole Foods, there's only one in downtown Boise. There's not another single Whole Foods. The good news is, though, is that there is quite a few Costco's. So if you're a Costco person, they have lots of Costco's. They also have Trader Joe's, and they have the co-ops. So there's a lot of different varieties.
There is. And geez, now I feel like I need to add in, because I didn't know you were going to have a Whole Foods thing. So the co-op, there's 2 locations here. And if you become a member, you're part owner of the co-op and you have say-so. They always have Topo Chico in stock. And for those of you who don't know, Jesse, he always has a Topo Chico in his hand. It's his drink of choice. And
not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor again. Yet. Topo. Anyway, so the co-op is great, and everything they have there is organic. So in addition to being able to go to the co-op for all of the local organic produce and all of the clean meats and all of the clean shelf items, we are also a big farm community out here. So there are farm stands everywhere. All of the farmers come out for the markets. Every little city out here has a market on Saturday, and they're take up a good part of the year. And then there's also this service here named Full Circle, and not sponsored by Full Circle, but if you reach out to me, I can help you get your first month's box for no charge. You go on Thursday night and you customize your box, and for a set price, they deliver it in the middle of the night on Friday, and it has local produce from the farms in the area, 100% organic, and it is very inexpensive. I think it's beneficial to my bank account that there's not a Whole Foods nearby, and to the community, because at the end of the day, I'm supporting all of our local farmers. The food is more fresh, it costs less money, and I mean, that's like a win-win for everyone, right? And I'm saving time, because now I don't have to go to the grocery store for my produce anymore. So, but the Albertsons are really, really sweet. Really sweet.
Well, the 2 locations, where are they?
One is in Meridian on Eagle Road, right near the freeway. Yep. And the other is
Eagle and Fairview.
Eagle and Fairview, and it's called the Albertsons Marketplace. And then my favorite one is in Boise, down near the university, and that is on Broadway. And
I thought it was called Market Street. Marketplace, look it up, put it in the comments below.
There is actually one that they just opened in Star, which is not quite as sweet. And that one is really cool also. But downtown Broadway, Albertsons, when I have family come visit, we go there like it's a field trip. It's pretty cool. There's a restaurant in there. If you want to buy any gifts to take home that are representative of Idaho, it's there. You want to go there and do it. Every kind of food. We have a really big Basque population here. You can get a lot of Basque food down there. There's fresh sushi, aged meats. There's a whole restaurant and bar upstairs. And if you're into sports, the TVs are massive up there. You can see them from the community and watch the game. It's pretty cool. It's really insane. The headquarters for Albertsons is here. So,
yep, right by that store.
Mm-hmm. That was a lot, and there is always going to be more. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up if you liked it. That way you never miss one of our videos, and you'll be informed every single time there's an update or more information to share with you. And like we said earlier, we are very experienced realtors and investors. As much as we love sharing this information with you, we love helping you make Idaho home. So don't hesitate. Give us a call, shoot us a text, write us an email. The sooner in your process, the better, so we can help you out and get you connected to all of the right resources. Until the next one, be blessed.